If there is one thing that I've learned from my studies in Mangamai'barawanga and the narratives provided to us by Bidjigal knowledge holder Fran Bodkin, is that the Aboriginal people value the land as much as they value themselves. They have a close, intertwined relationship with all living things, the land and their ancestral spirits, whom they believe helped shape the land and were therefore respected greatly. This spiritual belief is what is known to us as the dreaming, or the dream time, and the knowledge, tradition and laws passed on from generation to generation is what helped foster harmony between the people and nature. The Aboriginals lived on the Australian continent for 65 millennia prior to the arrival of British settlers, which makes them arguably one of the most ancient and diverse ethno-cultural groups to have ever existed, stretching from the desert plains of the Kimberley to the swampy coastal areas of Australia's eastern seaboard. With all the time spent on this continent, they acquired a refined understanding on aspects such as botany, naturopathic medicines, zoology, meteorology, and astronomy, and it is the topic of traditional Aboriginal medicines that we shall discuss, and the medicinal uses of the broad-leafed paperbark tree, Melaleuca quinquenervia. The Melaleuca quinquenervia is native to the east coast of Australia and a few Pacific islands, most notably New Caledonia, but it is found around the world as an introduced or invasive plant, such as in South America, the Caribbean, and Florida in the US. It is usually found in damp or swampy areas. The traditional uses for paperbark are quite wide range, but for general use it is used to cook and package food, and it is used in structural uses such as bedding and roofing and fencing within nomadic homes. But the uses for treatments of ailments and injury are even wider due to its medicinal versatility and variety in chemotypes, which all produce varying essential oils. To name a few ailments it can treat: headaches, coughs, rheumatism, muscle soreness, itchiness, infection, and even ward off mosquitoes. Some of the methods of preparation of Melaleuca as a medicine is to crush the leaves and hold against the face for the essential oil to be inhaled as a vapor for flus, coughs, and vertigo. It is boiled and applied to the skin for itchiness, rashing, and irritated skin, or ingested for the treatment of rheumatism and neuralgia as a tea. But for the leaves to have a more potent and wide-ranged effect, it is sometimes mixed with other leaves in a tea, such as gumtree leaves for the treatment of coughs and flus. Let it be noted that the Aboriginals identified many different medicinal plants, and in the cases of coughs and flus, they were spoilt for choice. Here we can see a Bidjigal community in the Kimberley putting their own species of paperbark to use in the treatment of skin irritation. It can even be used as a bandage bound to an area with headache vine, or as a menstrual or pregnancy pad for women due to its antifungal and antimicrobial properties. The major organic compounds found in the essential oil of the Melaleuca quinquenervia's two chemotypes here on the east coast of Australia are E-neurolidol, linolol, viridoflorol, beta-carotene, alpha-terpineol, and 1,8-cineol, also known as eucalyptol. Here we can see a Bidjigal community in the Kimberley putting their own species of paperbark to use in the treatment of skin irritation. So due to a lack of audiovisual material on the subject, I decided to go on my own trip to Darawal lands at Botany Bay and attempt to find the Melaleuca and recreate the medical practices of the first people there. Initially I had trouble whilst searching around the reserve for the exact same species. I found another paperbark and it did not have the same broad-leafed characteristic as the quinquenervia. I did find supposedly what I thought was headache vine, which I used for my recreation of a bandage later. It wasn't until I left and drove past the residential area around Botany Bay that I found them everywhere, maybe 6 trees right by the footpaths and roads, and to my surprise I even had one right outside my house, which would have saved me 7 litres of diesel. Just shows how out of touch we are with nature.
$475 over 24 months with standard installation. Standard evening speed. NBN not available to all areas or homes.
Cancer is scary.
You're talking about one over there.
But I know I can help a friend going through it because I've got Canteen to show me.
So this was the tree that I'd harvested my leaves, bark, and even some early blooming flowers from for my recreations. It matched the physical characteristics of my catalogue, an erect tree between 8 to 12 metres, with whitish grey papery bark and a broad elliptical leaf between 40 and 120 millimetres long and 10 to 30 millimetres wide. I even noticed the 5 to 7 nerves that ran through the leaf which were stated. Now firstly I crushed and rubbed the leaves between my hands, and when breathed through the nose it produced a very similar effect to a vapour rub. Very aromatic with a similar eucalypt smell, probably due to the presence of cineol. The paper bark was very malleable and easy to separate, and I noted the powdery substance on the surface, which according to my resources was what the Aboriginals had thought to be effective against itching and rashing. With my plaited vine and sheet of paper bark, I applied it around my wrist as a bandage to help make things easier, I suppose. Much to my dismay, it wasn't really easy to put on. Now, we had already seen its uses in skincare, so I decided to make a tea, and I put the leaves and a few flowers in an old cooking pot with tap water and boiled it. Just showing you that I'd actually put it in there. Now I know what you're all thinking. There could be a bunch of pathogens and nasties on the leaves. Are you sure that's what you're looking for? It could be another plant. It could be poisonous. I didn't much matter, seeing as though we eat processed and poisonous things all the time, and I trusted the indigenous knowledge and my own intuition. It filled my house with a really nice smell. I put the tea through a sieve and into a mug, and it paid off. It tasted pretty good, and drank the whole lot, and didn't get sick or die, which is a bonus. So those were some of the traditional uses of the paper bark. Now we will use Western science to understand why these were effective. Now there were two different chemotypes of the species along the east coast, with differing concentrations of the previously stated chemicals. Chemotype 1, which was most likely the type that I'd collected and usually found in the southern regions of New South Wales and Queensland, and chemotype 2, found on the northerly regions of the east coast. Each chemotype had varying effectiveness against certain ailments. Chemotype 2 had higher amounts of 1,8-cineol and beta-carotene, found to be more effective against coughs, neuralgia and rheumatism. But chemotype 1 had higher amounts of enorolidol and linolol. Nerolidol wasn't as effective as an antimicrobial or antibacterial compound, but shows promises as an antivirulent, weakening bacteria biofilms, which is probably why it was mixed with other leaves in tea as an enhancer against colds and coughs. Beta-carotene also shows promise in the treatment of rheumatism and binds to the cannabinoid 2 receptor for therapeutic effect without exhibiting psychoactive effects. There are even studies to show that Melaleuca quinquenervia essential oil exhibits anti-cancer and insecticidal properties, proving effective against 4 different species of mosquito larvae in a joint Cuban-Mexican study. But the major modern commercial use of Melaleuca extract is in skincare, hair care, used as rubbing oil for muscle pain similar to Dencorub, and cosmetic products such as perfumes for the aromatic properties exhibited by the various species of the Melaleuca family. I believe this plant shows great promise in modern medicine, and a greater understanding between Western scientists and Aboriginal knowledge holders could greatly benefit modern day medicine, as well as implement a more naturopathic approach to medical treatment. Each chemotype could be studied and applied to their own independent uses.